Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1923 silent erotic drama Foolish Wives. Hey, that's not fair. This review is not going to be that bad. In fact, I think it's going to be a pretty good review. Foolish Wives is on the list of 1001 movies you must see before you die. That is a list that I am slowly trying to work my way through as we speak. This movie was the most expensive movie ever made at the time it was released in 1922. It was heralded as the first ever $1 million movie. It was originally intended to be 6 to 10 hours long, but that idea was originally scrapped, and over the years it has been condensed and condensed and condensed. Now the version I saw was 2.5 hours long, and I cannot imagine this movie being 6 to 10 hours long. First of all, there's just not enough material there. I don't know where they would be able to find more story, more plot line to make this 6 to 10 hours long, because it seems like it's an hour too long as it is. It completely drags. The story is, I'm sure for 1920s early cinema, this is a story that hasn't been done 1,000 times, which it has been today, and it's just really rough. It makes women look really stupid. The acting is not spectacular, I would say. The husband of one of the characters in this movie is also really dumb, though I don't know if that's what they intended for him to be, but he is incredibly stupid, and I just wasn't a huge fan of this movie at all. So the main character in this movie adopts the title of Count Wadslaw to seduce rich women and seduce them. So he's not actually rich in real life, but he pretends that he's rich, and he gives himself this title and kind of flaunts himself around and makes it looks like he has money when he actually doesn't, so that he can seduce women and steal their money from them. He has 2 accomplices in this movie who are both females and who are his cousins, and possibly his love interest as well, possibly his lovers. Now, I don't know if that was also common in the 20s, but it very much looks like that is what's going on in this movie. Now, one of the women that he seduces, and I would say probably the main woman of this movie, is named Helen. She is married to a gentleman who is portrayed as very boring. He doesn't they don't go out and do a lot of stuff together. He just kind of is a homebody. They show him in his pajamas a lot, just getting ready for bed or in bed. He doesn't seem like he is all that exciting in any way. So when she meets this count and he tries to seduce her, she's very intrigued by this. She's very intrigued by having this very glamorous, exciting lifestyle away from her husband, and kind of living as this. She's young. She wants to live like this young life that she feels like she's not getting at home. Now, the husband, she's very upfront with her husband that she's going out and seeing this guy and spending time with him and hanging out with him. And the husband's, for some reason, perfectly okay with this. I never really understood. Now, you get glimpses later on in the movie that he suspects that something's going down here, and he suspects that his wife is being seduced and maybe she's going to be used at some point. But you never really get this, he never really has this urge that he has to stop it. It seems like he never really seems like he needs to step in and do anything about it. And there's even points in the movie where this count guy tells the husband, "Oh, I'm going to take your wife out and I'm going to seduce her and we're going to make mad love together." It doesn't necessarily say stuff like that, but he alludes to the fact that I'm going to steal your wife away from you and I'm this rich count. And the husband's like, "Yeah, you kids go have fun." It's really weird. It's really stupid, I would say, and I don't understand it at all. There's also 2 other women that he seduces in this movie, one of which works at a hotel, and he promises that he's going to marry her. Now, honestly, I didn't realize until towards the end of the movie that this was even something that was happening. And I think it took me a lot of I didn't watch this movie in one sitting. It took me a lot of sittings to watch this 2.5 hour movie because it was so slow and so uninteresting and so boring. And I felt like it was a movie that I had to get through this list, and not a movie that I want to get through. I really had no desire, no drive, no ambition to finish this thing, so it took me a long time to get through it. And I didn't realize that this female character was someone he was seducing until the very end of the movie, where she is very dramatic that she wants to be with him and that he promised that he would marry her, and she's very much upset, emotional that it hasn't happened yet. And towards the end of the movie, she actually sees that he's pursuing this other woman named Helen. She gets violently upset and she tries to burn down the house that they're in. And as the house is burning, Helen and this count are in the house together. Helen does not jump to safety. The firefighters have this big round, almost like a trampoline that they want them to jump onto, and Helen's afraid and she doesn't do it. So the Count does it first and doesn't help Helen at all, and then Helen eventually does it, and then he's very much looked down upon after this in the community because he didn't help the woman. He went himself. He did a very selfless act. Selfless? He did an act that he benefited only himself and not her, and the community starts looking down on him for it. And then there's also a woman that he tries to seduce as well, who is mentally disabled, and I think it's the father of this mentally disabled woman ends up killing the Count and just discarding his body where no one can find him. And that's basically how the movie ends. It's a very odd ending. I very much enjoyed the fact that the Count got what was coming to him. I felt like they handled it very nonchalantly. There wasn't any real big build-up to it, in my opinion. It kind of happened out of nowhere a little bit. Kind of off to the side, oh, by the way, the Count's dead over here. In case you're wondering what happened to him, he's dead on the side. That's what happened to him. I expected more build-up, more fanfare, more here's what happened to this terrible character at the end of the movie, but it really wasn't there, and maybe that's just because my attention wasn't there. Maybe it was there, and I just wasn't noticing it. But the female characters in this movie are very insufferable. The wife especially, the fact that I realize you're in a relationship that you're not happy with, but to be conned by this gentleman, to be able to leave your husband and pursue this other gentleman, I don't know, I'm just not a fan of it. Not a fan of the whole cheating, not a fan of the, even though she's not really going behind her husband's back because her husband knows what's going on, the fact that she spent a whole night with this guy in a cave because she got injured, and the next day she goes home and everything's fine. The husband doesn't care, she doesn't care, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just so weird. The whole dynamic between these characters is very strange, and not a lot of it was believable to me. I don't know. It's just not a movie. I don't know why. It's another one of those movies where I don't know why it's on the list of movies you must see before you die, unless it's because at the time it was the first $1 million movie, or at least heralded as the first $1 million movie. It was the most expensive movie ever made up until that point, which I also don't understand. There's nothing really here that would point out big budget to me for the time, so I was a little confused by that as well. Maybe that's why it's on this list, because of historical significance, but I don't think it's a very good movie. It hasn't held up. Even the film quality, now it's hard because a lot of movies like Nosferatu have been digitally remastered over and over again, where you have movies like this that aren't as well known, probably have not been remastered. The copy I saw of this is probably not remastered. It's just a very rough original copy, or remastered decades and decades and decades ago. It doesn't have that same flair that Nosferatu does, so it's hard to judge, for me, film quality of these movies when you're judging two different states of the movies. But the film quality is not great in this movie. In fact, if you compare it to any other movie I've seen, it's probably really bad. it's just, to me, it's a lot of different reasons to not like this movie. Everything comes together, and it's just a ball of things I don't like. So, in all honesty, this movie's a 4.5 out of 10 for me, and I think I'm honestly being nice with that score because there's not a whole lot I liked about it, but I can see the historical significance with this movie. I also think the guy who directed it also starred in it, which is pretty neat. You don't see that a lot unless it's like a Buster Keaton movie or a Charlie Chaplin movie. So I thought that was also pretty cool, but there's not a lot here, I would say. It's not worth 2.5 hours of your life. There's really, in my opinion, no reason to watch this unless you're just trying to complete this list like I am. Otherwise, I would say skip it. 4.5 out of 10. I hope you join me next time when I review a Buster Keaton movie that is called Our Hospitality. Thank you. I hope you have a great day.